Every now and then you see a movie on iTunes or Netflix and you say to yourself, what's this? I've never heard of this film. And then you watch it and it absolutely blows you away. And you ask yourself, how in the world did I almost miss this movie? Well, The Outpost is that movie. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Before we get started, click on that red subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know whenever I post a new video. As always, this review will be as spoiler-free as possible. The war movie genre is something that can be a little tough to nail down. A film like Saving Private Ryan opens up with the landing at Omaha Beach on D-Day, which is an event that we have a frame of reference for. We know about D-Day. We understand the stakes and the villains and the heroes. We also know how that particular story ends. The war in Afghanistan can be a little bit trickier to figure out. Yes, we know that the US invaded Afghanistan in an effort to root out the Taliban, but at this point the war has gone on for so long that it's hard for even the most ardent supporter of it to explain why we still have boots on the ground there. The length of the conflict has created ripe ground for many tales of heroism and bravery, and it's only a matter of time before more films like The Outpost get produced. The conflict has raged for so long and is so recent that I can tell you exactly where I was in October of 2009 without even consulting a calendar. At one point that month I was at Lake Mead in Nevada, and later in the month I drove from Orange County, California up the coast to Monterey. All that to say, a movie like this, a movie that takes place in such a recent time, feels extremely relatable, especially when compared to more historical war films. The outpost at the center of this film was a very small US military installation situated at the bottom of 3 surrounding mountains. The US military created many of these outposts in order to build relationships with local Afghan tribal leaders in their effort to fight the Taliban. This particular installation also just happens to be within 15 miles of the border with Pakistan, and there are insurgents pretty much everywhere. So picture this, you're in a mountainous desert region, and you basically decide to plop a tiny military base at the bottom of a hole that is nearly impossible to get to without significant air support. The entire place is surrounded by huge mountains from every single direction. Oh, and you can only get to it on moonless nights because otherwise your helicopters will be under constant fire from enemy attacks. Yikes. This film covers various points in time, such as the renaming of the base in 2006 to the massive and inevitable insurgent assault that took place on the base in 2009. While the movie certainly covers a lot of ground, it doesn't really do a very good job explaining the various fast forwarding that it does in order to move the plot along. Aside from Orlando Bloom's distractingly awful American accent, the movie does everything else right. And when I say right, I mean very right. This is a war movie that shows a tremendous amount of respect for the audience, the political material it's discussing, and most importantly, the soldiers it portrays. Coming in at 2 hours, The Outpost spends the first half showing us the everyday lives of men who were fully aware that they've been put into a dangerous situation by their superiors. They talk about their families, about their kids. They make fun of the last captain, the captain before him, and the captain who's running the base now. None of the guys are stereotypes, and they're all extremely relatable. Director Rod Lurie's decision to spend this much time on the setup does 2 very important things. First, it allows us to get to know them, so when the bullets really start to fly, we feel for them. Second, it shows us just how bad their current predicament actually is, making the second half of the film that much more harrowing and effective. The Outpost does dig into some of the politics surrounding America's involvement in Afghanistan, but this isn't really a statement movie. It's a movie about everyday men showing tremendous bravery in serving their country and caring for their fellow soldiers. The context surrounding the who, what, why, where, and when of this particular skirmish is important if we want to understand the story, but not overwhelmingly so. From a performance standpoint, everyone here is fantastic, but there are 2 actors that shine above the rest. Legendary actor and director Clint Eastwood's son Scott plays Staff Sergeant Clinton Romesha, a seasoned soldier whose eyes we see most of the conflict through. If there was a breakout starring role for him, this would be it. Expect to see Scott Eastwood in many more movies, and he is fantastic here. Caleb Landry Jones shows up in the movie and essentially blows everyone else off the screen with his performance as Specialist Ty Carter. You would recognize him as Banshee in X-Men First Class, and he's also done smaller bit parts in Three Billboards Outside Ebbings, Missouri, and Get Out. He's fine in those movies, but I would be absolutely floored if he's not nominated for an Oscar here. The rest of the cast is awesome, the directing is great, the action sequences are well choreographed, the camera work is top-notch, the sound design is fantastic, and you'll feel every broken bone, flying bullet, and RPG explosion. The Outpost takes its time getting where it needs to go, but every single moment resonates with the audience. The Outpost is a flawless depiction of one small moment in the longest war in American history. It's also a monumental filmmaking achievement that has no trouble playing with the big boys like Saving Private Ryan and Black Hawk Down. If you asked me what's the greatest war movie ever made, The Outpost will 100% be a part of that conversation. Thank you so much for checking out my review. If you like the content, click on that red subscribe button. You can also like and share the video because that engagement really does help the channel grow. Also, feel free to let me know what you think of The Outpost down in the comments, and I will see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m.